First and foremost, and I used to end a lot of my speeches, and I lasted for 12 years, I am a citizen of the planet first and American second, and my priorities are on that way. Okay? Make no mistake about that. Now, when we're analyzing the problem, whether it's the extraterrestrial situation issue, or the 9/11 issue, which of course ginned up the ability of the crazies to really go after the world, we have to start and be a little humble and say, hey, those of us that have held office for a period of time, you know, it's during that period of time that things have gone to hell. And when people say, well, you know, we ought to take back our country, we never had our country. If you read the Constitution that was passed in 87 and 89, the First Amendment, you know, we were putting in slavery for infinity. And if you look at, those of you that have this brochure, you'll look at all of our forebears that said the people should have the right to change their government. And that's based upon the Declaration of Independence, where all human beings are created equal. Well, 12 years later, they're in Philadelphia, and they're not creating all human beings equal. What they're doing is they're making a distinction that white males are the only equal ones, and if you have enough property, the rest. And so those who get married to the Constitution, they like to rip the Constitution apart. And then when you say about, you know, obeying the Constitution, after the Civil War amendments, which really fundamentally is the only improvement made in the Constitution of size because it expanded the franchise. And if you look at the amendments, the rest of it are just housekeeping. And so from the Civil War on, we had 90 years where, 12, 13 states were in total violation of the Constitution of the United States, and nobody gave a darn about it. And the political parties were all part of the conspiracy. So when you advance from there to here and look around and see how our scientific advancement has been so explosive, and we are stuck in a system, a structure of governance that's 250 years old that is totally irrelevant to dealing with our problems that we face today. And then so we look at, say, oh, we're going to go to the Congress. I got to tell you, I've said that earlier in the week, it's a dead letter, and hold your breath, it's never going to happen. And it's not that I'm demeaning the Congress, I've been there, and I'll tell you that they don't have the power that you think they have.
No,
it was always...
They won't use it.
But no, I don't want to engage in anything. I respect your views, but I just want to tell you that the problem, you have to come to some kind of a search internally with some humility and say, maybe, just maybe, our structure of governance is deficient. We don't have a democracy, never had it. What we have is representative government. That's what came out of the age of enlightenment, was representative government, where the majority of the people give their power away to a small minority. And that small minority, and you want to know what happened? $4 billion was spent in the last election, and our government, the Congress, the executive, the bureaucracy, the judiciary, they are owned lock, stock, and barrel by the Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, and all of the special interests that we find abroad. And then when you see what's going on with NATO, is nothing but the militarization, the globalization of the military-industrial complex. That's what's going on. And I referred to a study where it showed that 1,300 corporations with interlocking directorates and family ties own 60% of the wealth of the world. And then you've gone through the litany of the Bilderberg Group and all of that group. Sure, they do what's natural to them. They've got power, and they're clever enough to keep it and work for it. Our task is to look at the structure of why we're failing as human beings. And I say all of us, because we've had testimony replete of people in the military who are supposed to be courageous and prepared to charge up the hill, that they defer to authority that silences them. And if you reason it out, it doesn't make any sense that they have to keep secrets like that. I had to make that decision in the Senate and put myself at risk when releasing the Pentagon Papers. Those were top secret documents. And the rest of the Congress was stymied like little kids in school that you could go read it, but you couldn't take any notes. They tried to impeach me, and I was saved by one person, Mike Mansfield. He had such power in the Senate. He stepped before a delegation led by Gerald Ford, brought it with Hugh Scott, went to visit him and said, well, we got to deal with this Gravel for what he's done. And Mansfield turned to them, sucking on his pipe. He says, he's done nothing that I know of, and they walked right out. That was the end of the story. That saved my career. And when I went to see Mansfield, and I get emotional about it, because when he turned to me, he says, Mike, if I'd had your courage, I'd have done the same thing. But stop and think what I did. The whole Congress had bought into the secrecy of these documents, and I'd turned it all over, and made the Supreme Court moot, and put to shame the newspapers that were now afraid to do that. And the issue with the Supreme Court, our government representative government is designed to keep the people in civic adolescence. That's what it's the design. What is adolescence? Oh, I want that, but I don't want to pay any taxes. I want that, but I don't want to pay any taxes. That's adolescent behavior. Now, how do we bring the people to adulthood, civic adulthood? How do we do it the way we bring our children up? We give our children responsibility as they age, and then they come to adulthood. So it's taking responsibility. But when you have a structure of government that doesn't permit the people to take responsibility, you guarantee the continuation of civic adolescence. And so what I've tried to do with this work, and this represents the last 25 years of my public life, and it'll continue until the day I die, and that is that the answer is the people. It's not your leaders. Don't trust your leaders. It's the people. There's only two venues for change. One is the government, wherein structurally the problem exists, and the other is the people. The government won't, but the people can't, because they give their power away. I'll close on one quote which says it all, and that is very simple. It's a quote from 2,000 years ago. Marcus Cicero defined freedom as participation in power. You will never see fundamental change in our society or global society until the power can be relegated to the people directly. It's just that simple. I make that as a prediction. I've resigned myself that I'll keep working, but I won't see this in my lifetime. Won't see it in my lifetime. But someday, people are going to wake up and say, hey, you know, what's so worrisome about empowering the people to be able to do what? When Cicero says freedom is power, is participation in power, what is the central power of all governments, whether tyrannies or democracy, well, republics? It's the ability to make laws that stand outside of ourselves and that we're supposed to obey them. At this point in time, only representatives make laws, and these representatives de facto are controlled by these forces beyond our control because they control society. So the answer is to find a way to empower people to be able to make laws. Therefore, they will have the power to, one, to do away with the secrecy in government. Does it surprise you that 50% of the people don't even care about government? And this is not Einstein's theory. Well, it is Einstein's theory, and that was, he said that to repeat over and over again something that doesn't work is the definition of insanity. That's a great theory. So we vote for Democrats, nothing really happens. We vote for Republicans, nothing really happens. We go to Britain, we see one government, that government, nothing really happens to advance the needs of the human race. And so you can only come to one conclusion, that the answer is not with the elites, because they're going to, and they manipulate our elections. Mind you, I raise money from special sources to run for office, and I manipulate my constituency. I do that. And I'm sure any successful politician has done that, is to manipulate the constituency for your thinking. And to think that we in elective office want a turnout of voters, hell no. We want a turnout of our voters, not the general voters. So the whole structure of representative government is very deficient. So let me lead with this, that I have personally unreserved faith in the people. And if you don't have faith in the people, what do you have faith in? The leaders?